Morning. What makes you a prepper? What made you wake up one day and realize, shit, I need to be a prepper? What is your actuation? Thank you. Very nice of you. For me, it was February 1992, SEER School at Fort Bragg. Made me realize, yeah, I need to be a prepper. Of course, I didn't call it that back then. The term back then was a soldier of fortune or survivalist or something else. I was in the military back then, but I don't know when the term prepper came to being. He or she who prepares for shit hitting the fan, as it were. And I think about that term prepper because I make prepper videos. My call sign on YouTube is, as if you hadn't guessed it, Suburban Prepper. Because I live in the suburbs. I drive a Jeep Gladiator and I live in the suburbs. And I make YouTube videos about prepping. And the funny thing is, when I'm doing actual prepping stuff, I don't record it. I'll talk about it afterwards. But when I'm actually doing something, I don't think about, oh, I better record this for my channel. That would be pretty cool to people to see. But I don't have the artiste in me completely. And I don't just carry my phone around looking for things to record. Excuse my slowness. I'm on the road to going to work and I don't want to get hit by cars that go so fast. Because I don't. There's school buses out and these guys are doing 60 in a 45, whatever. Anyway, let me digress. So yeah, I'm a prepper. I'm a suburban prepper. I don't live in a big city. I don't live out in the country. If I had a choice between the two, I would want to live out in the country and I would build up from there. I think that's the goal of every urban or suburban prepper, is to have a bug out location out in the country and build it up. And the goal would be to build it up beforehand. So if you had to go shit hit the fan, you have that place to go to. That bug out cottage, as it were. And that's the reason why I'm here today too. Because if I were a millionaire, I'd probably still be doing YouTube videos, but I'm not. So I'm still doing YouTube videos. Eventually I'm going to get that bug out location and I'll make more YouTube videos in my bug out location. Well, somebody's in a big hurry just to turn. So I'm on my way to work at 7:20. This is Suburban Prepper. So why do I prep? Around here, the threat was pretty high almost 10 years ago or so with protests in Chicago. They'll protest over anything. And I was worried about it flooding over into Indiana. They look at us differently in Illinois versus Indiana. Now, not everybody in Illinois, mind you. A lot of the people in Chicago, well, they look at the people from Illinois and the people looking, okay, this buddy ain't going to work out for me. You should just go around and go that way. I'll scoot up for you, though. The person behind me, I hope they turn. Now they're going to go tell you to go. Anyway, no one's being nice to the lady, and I was trying to be nice. It never hurts to be nice to somebody. You may not know who they are. They may not even thank you. You can usually tell by who's nice or not by how they drive and their license plate. Let's just be honest, okay? Illinois drivers aren't that nice. someone with a custom plate, like be vegan, they got an ego. They got a message. Being nice isn't one of them. What I ought to do is get a piece of chicken, go right next up to this car. But no, I won't do that today. Back to prepping. So my initial thought for prepping was survival. And it was going 1,000 different directions, and I was getting lists of things that needed to be done for my home, for my homestead, for my family, for me, for my pets. And I made list after list after list after list of things that needed to be prepped for. And these lists usually involve me buying stuff. Documenting stuff, storing stuff. Looking at what stuff I already had. There's some redundancy, but not of there are some definitely some high ticket items that I say people should prep for. Other people belittle me for talking about it, such as having a Harvest Right freeze dryer. Instead of buying thousands of dollars worth of freeze dried food, you can make your own freeze dried food. I have yet to put on my Amazon storefront any freeze dried food from other companies, when I think that if you bought your own Harvest Right freeze dryer and freeze dried your own food, one, you know that you washed your hands before you put the food in the freeze dryer. Two, you know that you put what you before you freeze dried or after you freeze dried it. And four, you know you put that work into that freeze drying process using the Mylar bags that you purchased. You sealed them yourself. You dated them. You know what's on the food. That's why I think every prepper should have a freeze dryer. So yes, I do list various freeze dryers that you can purchase off of Amazon now. Now, why Amazon? Because I have an Amazon storefront. I'll be honest with you. I'm proud of that because it took a lot of work to get. So wherever you get your Harvest Right freeze dryer or some other brand, get one. Get what you can afford. Now I'm going to tell you the truth. I bought my Harvest Right freeze dryer from the company on layaway, and I paid it off. And when it was done, I got it. They worked with me. Their financial people worked with me. I paid it off. I got news that Canadian Prepper is getting rid of all his inventory of Harvest Right freeze dryers. So check out what he has on sale on his website. You can look him up till he runs out of stuff, I guess. And you're going to save yourself some money getting one of his from Harvest Right. If it saves you some money, for the record, I do have an affiliate link with Harvest Right, and I'm sort of selling myself short, telling you to go to some other place, but I could save you a couple $100 or then some. Do it. I'm not desperate here or anything. I mean, 20% off of a $2,000 system, right? Is that $400? I don't know what percent off he has, so I couldn't tell you. But it's silly not to save money. Or you could just go on Amazon, look at my website, and see what I have and see what it compares with these off-brand freeze dryers. They basically all do the same thing, but I have my Harvest Right. I love it. I have a medium-sized one. So if you're going to get a Harvest Right, if you're going to get a freeze dryer, make sure you just piecemeal the accessories that need you to get with it, because parts wear down. So it's good to have backup parts. It is a piece of technology, and eventually all technology, guess what, folks? All technology eventually fails. So get a dehydrator. I have a dehydrator that I keep in cold storage, basically, as a backup to my freeze dryer. Now, freeze dryer takes out more water than dehydration, and it lasts definitely a lot longer. But you do whatever you got to do. So basically, the importance right now that I'm discussing is long-term food storage, because everybody's got to eat. So when you think of prepper, you think of someone with these 55-gallon cans, or I don't know what the other word would be, of rice. Can I get an amen on that? Well, I don't own 55-gallon cans of rice, dried beans. I own 5-gallon buckets. And what I did is I bought a bunch of rice, a bunch of beans, all these dried products, and I sealed them in these buckets. They're labeled. And guess what? When I'm done using them, I'll have some nice buckets. I drilled no holes in them or anything, so they're going to work as a bucket. And I got these. They're real nice, sturdy. I got them on Amazon. They're not going anywhere. You seal them. They're pressure sealed, and once you open them, they're not. So yeah, I do have, I don't know, about 20 of them, I'd say, of various dried food items, basically carbs and proteins. And you store that stuff properly, it's not going bad anytime soon. The only item you got to be real careful for is the kind of rice that's like not white, the other color. That stuff will go bad eventually. What do I freeze dry? Well, right now, that's a good question. Right now, I'm waiting to harvest more carrots, and I want to freeze dry a bunch of carrots. And I'm excited. I love freeze dried carrots. They're like a potato chip. You taste them, you got that carrot taste, or you can let it just sit in your mouth, like a wafer, and you got that nice carrot flavor. And here's the thing about growing carrots, and I'm going to tell you this, and I tell you this again. The longer you let it sit in the soil, and it likes loose soil, okay? It grows best in loose soil. The longer you let it sit in the soil and grow, the sweeter and more tastier it becomes. And for a carrot, that's what you like. I just waved to somebody. I have no idea who that person was. And they looked at me like I'm weird. I just say hi to a fellow human being. Anyway, I do that sometimes. I go, hi. This is Suburban Prepper. It's 7:30. And I'm probably going to be a little bit late to work today based on time hacks and locations. Usually at 7:30, I'm at the gas station corner intersection where you start going into Indiana, out of Indiana, into Illinois. But I digress. So food storage. So let me tell you my story about my first prepper mistake, okay? And there's a couple of reasons why it was a mistake. I won a bid on GovPlanet for a pallet of MREs. Now, me being a military man, active duty, and National Guard with multiple combat tours, I was a paratrooper, flight medic with the 160th, medic with the 76th Infantry, Kentucky National Guard, Indiana Army Guard, multiple deployments. I'm an Army man. I'm a retired Army man now. That's still in my blood, okay? I still bleed it. So when I think of MRE, I think they're delicious, okay? And they plug you up. Hi, fellow Jeep. So I was like, oh shit, I'm going to buy that pallet of MREs. Not looking deep enough, I didn't realize that they were refugee MREs, basically, not military grade. They're basically the same thing, but they didn't have the little Tabasco sauces. They didn't have the matches. They didn't have the gum, everything that the MRE would have. And they had low sodium ones too. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And I won the pallet. I didn't win. I paid for it. The bidding process, of course, I had to pay for shipping, and that's where things started going a little bit south. The amount that I paid for shipping, the amount that I paid for the pallet, I could have bought in way better MREs from an MRE store and paid less probably with shipping and paid less, and I would have had more quality MREs with a full military packet, not the refugee MREs. So what I ended up doing was saving the bread and saving the main meal and some of the accessories and getting rid of everything else, like the Pop-Tart that came with it. Pop-Tarts go bad. I don't care who you are. The main meal, the bread that's sealed in the MRE Mylar, that's not going anywhere. And I started freeze drying some of my main meal MREs. My wife thought I was crazy. But yeah, I've got a couple 100 pounds worth of MRE main meal. And all of them are some form of spaghetti or some form of tomato sauce added to something. At one point out, just mixing all together, slop. But the thing is, once you reconstitute it and warm it up, or eat it cold, it doesn't matter. Most of my MREs I ate cold. I didn't really care to warm them up with the warmer. The heater that comes with it, I just didn't care. And they say a warm MRE is good for morale. I'll eat food out of a can. Does the same thing for my morale. Once that food hits my stomach, my morale goes up, as you could tell. So that was my first mistake. Of many. Well, my second mistake is I got a medium-sized Harvest Right freeze dryer. Now, getting the Harvest Right freeze dryer in itself was a blessing. It was not a mistake. I'm not saying that. The problem is I should have gone with a larger sized freeze dryer. I went with the medium size. At the time, they had small, medium, and large. Large was significantly more expensive, but in retrospect, I should have bought large. I would have been able to freeze dry more food. But I digress. I can't go back in time and change it. I can always go out and buy another Harvest Right freeze dryer. I know some people that they have like 10 of them and they use it for their cottage industry with, you know, selling food and stuff, various foodery items. I'm not doing that. I would still use them. The wife makes dog treats and some special candies and stuff. But I digress. So that was my second mistake out of many. And the thing is, you make these mistakes and you learn from them. So they've been valuable mistakes and could have saved more money. But instead, I went with what I went with. It definitely was not a bad investment. I could have invested more. The time is 7:36. This is Suburban Prepper. I guess we just went into what mistakes I've made as prepping. I guess this video is going to be about that. So I'm prepping, moving along, prepping. I'm learning some more skills as a prepper. Self-taught. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. Some stuff I already know, stuff I didn't know. I had to came down to foraging. By no means was I an expert. On the civilian side, I'm a nurse practitioner. And I've always had an interest in naturopathics. So the opportunity to get a postgraduate fellowship from George Washington University opened up from my employer, and I took advantage of it, and I attended and graduated. So I became, in addition to primary medical, a naturopathic provider. Quasi one, okay? I don't do it all the time. Regrets. I can't really use that skill set in my employment. A lot of my patients don't want to hear about it, or can you prescribe it to me? And I tell them, no, you have to go buy it. They don't want to hear that. They want it the way they want it. And I can't make that happen. Solution, I do make alternative medicine videos and I post them on my channel. There's a Jeep. I got to say hi to the Jeep. Regrets. When I make these videos, okay, I can't individualize them to everybody's unique situation. That's impossible. And I'm not going to. I would need to go through your medical history. And this takes a couple hours to do. Read your medical records, get a picture in my brain of what's going on. Then I would make a recommendation. And that's a consultation. And I'm not doing that online. I thought about doing it. But I've had patients at work forget to mention surgeries that they've had, or, oh, yeah, I have a pacemaker defibrillator during a visit, and I pick it up when I feel they're on men. And that's the answer that I get. Take a deep breath. How long a minute's been. Some cultures say it's been a minute. The time means nothing to them. Drinking some sugar-free ginger beer from Australia. And so that's the other side of prepping that I really got into, is alternative medicine. And I'm surprised that a lot of preppers aren't into alternative medicine. And I hear and I read on the Facebooks and all the other streams and all the other social media about how taking a pill is not good for you and to do this instead. And people post these things that have no medical background at all. Or the people will post, here's what I find funny, okay? It's sad but funny. You live in a grow zone where I live, 5. You can't grow subtropical fruit in this grow zone. It's not going to survive. But yet these people will tell you, grow your own vegetables and fruit for healing. You can grow anything. Well, if you lived in maybe in Miami area of Florida, you could grow a lot of that stuff. But in Northwest Indiana by Lake Michigan, no. So what I recommend are capsules. Buy the pre-made stuff in a bottle as far as alternative therapy. And you may say to yourself, well, Suburban Prepper, how's that prepping? Well, how are you going to grow something subtropical like bergamot or berberine, and it won't grow in this area? Now, who's rich enough to have a nice big greenhouse to grow stuff? Great. That's the exception. You can modify the environment, but I can't. I tried to do that in my basement, and it was a disaster. And you need a permanent greenhouse structure to grow stuff. Now, if that's on your agenda for prepping, then great, do it. And if you have a greenhouse, you have a means you know what you're doing already. You don't really need to be watching me talk about how expensive greenhouses are. But the problem is they sell these cheap greenhouses for under $1,000. And would you really trust that greenhouse to survive a winter? Now, I know I have a cheap greenhouse. It's basically a tent, and it's made tight, but it's by no means is it, and it has basically it's whatever that material is for tents, and sunlight, and it can come in, and it's warmer in there because it is, vented, I guess, or the air stays in there and it stays hot. But the wind here blows a lot, and it rains, and I had a little torrential, and it took the pegs out of the ground and flipped over my greenhouse and just whacked it. So, yeah, you need a type of greenhouse that's cemented in the ground or in the soil that's not going anywhere. A more permanent structure. That's why on a bug out location, if I had the means, I would make sure to get something like that. And not some plastic pop-up tent one. Yeah, you can DIY a greenhouse with bricks and some other stuff for the top. It would retain the heat and get the sun. But I'm not a structural analysis. I can't tell you what's going to survive. I mean, basically things like that do better than flat. Things at an angle. Solar. So we're talking about prepping mistakes that I made. Next one I'm going to talk about is my first big solar investment. 5,000 watt inverter with 1,300 watts of solar panels. These are the old, big, bulky ones that are heavy. And I put my system together, got it to work. It did work in a pinch, but we got a complete home solar system. So I gave that one away to the Boy Scouts here locally where I live. I just gave it away. And I gave them, I think, 5 batteries. Because I just didn't have the space for it. So I kept 3 batteries, and now I'm building a 2,000 watt system. Well, because I still have my home system, and that's going to be another video in itself to build. I have the cart that I want to put it in. The batteries will be on the bottom wired. The inverter will be on the other cart. The solar charger will be there. And then I got to work on different panels because I want the panels to be able to fit behind everything, and I would just set them up, stake them to the ground, and then I want to have everything pop-up tent. So on the top, I would have a tent and supplies for the tent, and another one, and some lights or something, and some cords to get it all going. And that's going to be another complete video. Regrets? Yes. The company that I went with, SunPower, went bankrupt last year. And guess what? I think my inverter on my home system is broken. The guy that sold it to me is trying to fix it, but there's no warranty. So my regret is I should have just waited for an Elon Musk system, you know? That's what I should have waited for. Now, night vision. I believe as a prepper, now this is another one of those areas that can get a little expensive, but as a prepper, we need to have night vision. You'll see on my Amazon storefront what I recommend. And yeah, I do own most of these devices or very similar ones to them. That's why I have them listed. Like, I have a PVS 14. I have a FLIR Breach. I have a Halo LR. I have some of the cheaper thermal, or not thermal, like a Sightmark Wraith. I have the original Sightmark Wraith. So I'm making recommendations off of stuff that I've owned and love. What I would like is a couple of the devices I don't have. And that's okay. Oh, that's a big bump. I forgot about that. The time is 7:48. I got 12 minutes to get to work. Why? Because I'm going to be ambushed today with a ton of patients. How do I know that? Because I know my schedule. And there's always a patient that, well, something happens. Seems like every day is a busy day. I don't have, and it's okay. I don't get a slow day anymore. But long gone are the days where I could just talk to somebody. They walk in for an issue. I literally do not have the time anymore for a patient to come in and talk to me. Unscheduled, unannounced. Can you do that with your doctor? And you're going to say, well, Suburban Prepper, you're a nurse practitioner, you're not a doctor. I know what I am, but I get the same patients, I get the same workload. I don't get the scrub patients. Sometimes I think I have the more intense patients than the physicians because my personality, and it seems like the clerks give me more patients and they don't realize the burden that they're throwing on me because I got a better personality than the other two providers. I do got a personality. And I'll work with someone. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So when I was a medic in the Army and in the Army National Guard, I got to do some stuff. That's where I learned to make my mistakes as a medical person to the point where I knew I wanted to do this after active duty. And I wanted to go to PA school, med school, or nurse practitioner school. I was doing my undergraduate for all three, decided to go to the RN route. I got my 2-year RN, okay? Eastern Kentucky University. Now, make no mistake, just because you think it's a 2-year program, that was like a scrub program. The 2-year program was a lot harder than the 4-year program. We would have tests and clinicals. And at some point, if you failed something or didn't perform up to measure, or if you pissed off an instructor, you could get kicked out of the program. So they're weeding out the weak ones, and I got that. And there were a lot of weak ones. But I survived. I wasn't going to not survive. I thrived. And I graduated with my associate's degree. Took my boards the first time. Guess what? I flunked them. Not because I was ill prepared, but I didn't study for the boards. Back then, we didn't study on how to take the test. We studied on how to be a nurse. Now I know that they do the board certification. They include that in the schooling. That's why you're learning how to be an RN. I get it, but you also have to learn how to take the test. So I took a Kaplan review, and I knew the material. I just didn't know how to answer the questions right. And they're real picky about their questions. So I retook the test. Of course, I passed it. But that was one of the sadder days of my life. Back in the day, they'd send it to you in snail mail. And you're like, I'm looking at the paper. I'm like, shit. Because I was working as a nurse, pending a license. And I was like, well, shit, I'm just out of a job. Worked in Lexington, Kentucky. I had a place there and everything. And I ended up moving back in with mom and pop. Putting a reset button. Took my boards again, got it. Got my first job, real job. Worked on my bachelor's. Then after I deployed from Afghanistan as a medic, came home, became a nurse practitioner. Not easy said than done. A lot of hard work. Fellow nurses and fellowist nurses, I guess, make a comment. I'm going to get my nurse practitioner. I said, great. Like it was so easy to get. Like someone gave it to me. No. They don't know the thousands of hours that I studied. All the clinical time that I put in. And all the experience that I had to have beforehand. You're becoming a medical provider. The only nurse thing about being a nurse practitioner is the name. You're held up to the same standard as an MD. Believe me, I've been in court once. But I'm not going to go into that, but the court found in my favor. Yeah, I've been to court once. Do I regret that? No, because I did nothing wrong. And the great deal is the lawyers, I ended up getting 2 suits out of the 2, business attire suits. The lawyers paid for that for me to wear. I'm like, yeah, okay. So I got 2 custom suits with several shirts because each day you don't want to show up with the same thing. And I still have these beautiful clothes from this place to this day. Well, this was over 10 years ago now. Wow. Time passages, like the song says. Time is 7:54. This is Suburban Prepper. I almost quit the field then, but I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't. So, mistakes that I made. I made a few. But I get up again. And sometimes it's good to be down and you realize how much shit sucks. I had to live with my parents. I was in my prime. as a sexual rhinoceros, and I couldn't really do much there. If you get what I'm saying. Or is it sexual tyrannosaurus from Predator? You know, when anyway, you know what I'm saying. I think you do. Now the school bus, they stop at the even though there's no trains that ever go through here. It's like a dead end. They got these rails that are dead end. And I wanted to turn and he won't let me. Thank you. Thank you. I'm trying to turn. Fuck you. Thank you. Fuck you. Thank you. What's the rush, sweetheart? You're going to a red light. I'm sorry. I lose it a little bit. I don't have road rage. I have back road rage. I mean, there's like 4 buses in the perimeter where I'm at right now. Within 200 meters of me, there's 4 buses. You're not going anywhere. Well, 5, 6 buses I see. You're not speeding up anywhere. You're not going to buy. People in Illinois, they love to cut people off. They just love it. They love it. Anyway, time is 7:57. As soon as I get to work, I'm going to be raring to go. So I was watching some medical news about some diseases, and it popped into my head. It's time to make another medical video. And the brain, the way my brain works, like everybody else's, is I put an idea in my head, and I just let it sit there, right, like the computer on a TARDIS, and it comes up with a solution. Seems like I'm a lot popular doing these 5 things that you don't want to happen to you kind of situations on my YouTube channel. Like the 5 things you don't want to do with an individual first aid kit. So my next medical video, and I'm working on the draft and doing the reading and obtaining some imaging. And I really want to make the B-roll good. So I'm really working on that. And I'm using some automated B-roll, but I want it to be appropriate. I want it to present it. I want it to look good. And I've really worked on it. So I'm slowly working on this video. And it's going to be 5 diseases you don't want to get when shit hits the fan kind of situation. Now, there's hundreds of diseases you don't want to get, but I picked these 5. Why? Because they're the ones that popped into my head right away. It could be 5 other diseases that you don't want to get, but I picked the 5 that I think are important. And the great thing is you learn about the disease processes, you learn about what some natural remedies you can do for them, and you learn about the conventional medical therapy. And you get to watch my video. And there should be no debate. Well, someone's going to always say something about something. On my IFAC individual first aid kit video, I've had a lot of comments about the video. Some of them good. Some of them thinks it's trash. I mean, okay, but people watch it. I get thousands of hours of watching. So I'm going to mimic that, what I did, what works for me. But this time around, when I do it, I'm not going to be rushed when I do it. I'm making this video great. So I'm excited about it. And I'm working on it some every day. I've got some stock images related directly to the disease process. When someone's down looking at their phone at an intersection where there's cars, that to me is dangerous. This is Suburban Prepper. This is survival. This is resilience. This is Suburban Prepper. Out.